Have you gotten to the point where you're just not quite sure if you are in over your head in debt? Well, in today's video, I want to share with you some telltale signs that might let you know that it's time for you to tackle your debt elimination journey so that way you can pull yourselves out of the rut of financial ruin because of the amount of debt that's attached to your name. So if you're ready, let's go.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melone.
Hi, everyone. It's Sophia Melonē, the Debt Demolisher, here to bring you the tools, tips, and tricks to help you manage your financial baggage the right way. What an honor and privilege it is to be before you all for yet another episode drop here on the Debt Demolisher TV. You know, each and every day we are bringing you gems and juice and tricks to help you get financially savvy in this space, to help you face your financial fears, to help you heal holistically in your finances and allow you to go get that wealth that's attached to your name and that you're so deserving of. But before we can get there, we have to make sure that we have our money management skills all the way together. And one of the things that I do on this channel is educate you on that and also help you become fully aware of where you are in your financial state so that you can be able to make the change. So this is a hot topic because debt is something that a lot of us have. Debt is something that a lot of us are afraid to face. But in today's episode, I want to let you know that you are going to be able to identify if you are in a position where you are in over indebtedness. And what does that mean? You are in so much debt, too much debt, where it's unbearable and it's really not manageable for you based on your situation. So that means it's time to take some action on it. So the things that I'm going to share in this video may hurt. The things that I'm going to share in this video may strike a nerve, but if it strikes a nerve, I want you to realize and understand that it's resonating with you because it's time for you to do something about it. It's time for you to do something about it. I shared so many times transparently on my channel about my story, how I found myself in over $365,000 of debt before the age of 30, how I was caught in a vicious cycle of being in debt because that is all that I was taught, how I was not paying myself, how I did not have any reserves, how I was making six figures, but I didn't have anything to show for it except for a whole bunch of bills. So in today's video, we're going to walk through the telltale signs to let you know and to let us know if we're in way too much debt. So the first sign is this: you're exceeding your credit card limits. If you have credit cards and you use them on a frequent basis and they're maxed out and you're maxing out and you're going over on your credit cards, then that's an indication that you just might be in a little bit over your head when it comes to your revolving debt. Because remember, credit cards are considered revolving debt, meaning the availability becomes freeable as you pay down on whatever the balance is. So as you use it, it takes up the limit. And then once you pay it down, it frees up that line of credit so that you can be able to use it again. But the key is if you're constantly maxing out your cards, if you're constantly going over the limit, if you're being assessed with over the limit fees on your credit cards, that is a sign that you are in over indebtedness. And one thing that you have to realize when it comes to your credit card usage is that it's designed for it to serve as a benefit for you, but not as a lifeline. So many of us use our credit cards as a lifeline. We use our credit cards as a savings account. And I want to challenge you to change that behavior. Only charge what you can afford to pay in full by the ending of that same month. Only charge what you can afford to pay in full within that same month. One of the tips that I give inside of my credit ebook is this very strategy around the timing of when you need to pay down on your credit cards. So if you're interested in the credit ebook, I'm going to include a link for you to purchase the ebook right here, because this ebook is something that can really help you not only with your credit score, but also with your credit card repayment approach. It's some strategies in here that can serve you. But listen, so grab your copy of the ebook and remember, if you are constantly maxing out and exceeding your credit cards, then That's a sign that we got to change. The next thing is not knowing how much you owe. The next sign that you may be a little bit over your head in debt is you don't know how much you owe. I was a person who I did not know how much I owe in the aggregate. I knew I had all of these different types of bills. I knew I had all of these different types of loans, but I didn't see the full dollar amount. I didn't know what the total outstanding balance was until I had that epiphany on December 31st, 2015, to do a comparison of my bank account to my pay stub. And when I saw that the two were drastically different, I had to go and backtrack and find out where all of my money went. And my money went to all debt payments. Majority of my money went to debt payments. And what happened as a result of that? When I saw that it was going to debt payments, I said, oh, let me see how much debt I'm in. So I had to find out what I owed. I have an entire playlist on this channel, the Debt Demolishing series playlist. I'll link that right here for you all to check out. But I talked about this being the very first step, or the very second step, facing the reality of your situation, knowing how much you owe. Know how much you owe. So if you don't know how much you owe, then that's a sign that you got a little bit too much that you owe. Another sign that you may be in a little bit too much debt is that you run out of money. Do you find yourself that there is more month than money? Do you find yourself that by the ending of the month, you don't even have any left? Do you find that by the time you even get a paycheck, all of the money is gone because you ran out? That's because more than likely, you're making a whole bunch of debt payments, just like I was. More than likely, you are making a whole bunch of debt payments, just like I was. So if you're constantly running out of money from month to month, from check to check, if you're living check to check, you can barely survive, then you have too much debt on your hands and it's time to release it. It's time to let it go. It's time to stop adding on to it. It's time to stop causing it to rise. It's time to take some action so that we can get out of this cycle, this vicious cycle of debt. Another sign of over-indebtedness is that you're only making the minimum payments. If you cannot pay excess of what you owe, if you cannot pay excess of your monthly payments, then that means you're probably stretching your resource a little bit too much into so many other different payments that you have to make related to debt. So if you constantly find yourself where you can only make the minimum payment, you can barely make the minimum payment, that's too much debt and you need to get out of it. That is too much debt and you need to get out of it. So look for how much you're paying on your monthly bills, how much you're paying on your monthly bills that's tied to your credit report. Let me clarify that. And if you're only making the minimum, then you might want to adjust some things. You might want to adjust it. Another sign that you may be in a little bit too much debt is that you can't make your monthly payments. You're missing payments, you're skipping payments, you're late on payments, you're doing one month, you're skipping one the next month because you can't afford the responsibilities that you've signed up for. And it's okay to admit that. It's okay to admit that, but a lot of times we don't want to face the fact that we've accumulated too much debt. We don't want to face the fact of the things that we signed up for. We don't want to face the fact that we've put ourselves in this situation. So if you are someone who finds yourself constantly missing payments, you can't make them, you're late on them constantly, then you may be in a little bit too much debt or your resources may be tied up to a point where it's time to make some adjustments. It's time to release the debt and it's time to not add anymore. Another sign that you may be in over indebtedness is that your paycheck is being garnished. If you are experiencing garnishment, if you are experiencing issues where there was something that you did not pay and now it has to be garnished from your check, you got too much debt on your hands. You have too much debt on your hands. And it's time for you to take some action on it so that the garnishments won't have to occur. Put yourself on a payment arrangement. Put yourself on a situation. Put yourself on a debt accumulation freeze. And what does that mean? You are not acquiring new debt. You are not adding on new debt. You are adjusting your budgets. You are managing your money. You are finding new ways to find more money so that you can pay for the obligations that you signed up for, so that you can honor your name because you said that you would repay it based on those terms. So if you didn't want that life, you shouldn't have signed up for that life. If you didn't want that responsibility, you shouldn't have signed up for that responsibility. I said this was going to hurt. I said this was going to hurt, but we need to see it and we need to feel it so that we can take action on it. We need to see it so that we can feel it, so that we can do something about it. So if you find yourself in a space where your pay is being garnished, your money is being snatched before you could even get it, you are in a space of too much debt. You are in over your head in debt. Another obstacle, another sign is that you're facing foreclosure. Ouch. You are facing foreclosure or you are facing eviction. If you are facing foreclosure, if you are facing eviction, if you are facing repossession of your vehicle, then you have too much debt on your hand. You cannot afford what you have. You cannot afford what you agreed to. Because if you can't make the car payment and you can't make the note payment and you can't make the credit card payment and you can't make the loan payment and you can't meet the garnishments, there are some adjustments that you have to make to your lifestyle temporarily until you can get yourself out of this state of overly consumed inside of debt. Overly consumed inside of debt. In order for you to get the relief, you have to recognize these signs so that you can do something about it. So if you're in foreclosure, if you're facing repossession, if there are any instances where they're trying to snatch back the collateral that you borrowed against, you have too much debt. You have too much debt. Another telltale sign of over-indebtedness is that you are constantly requesting for increases in your credit limit. And a lot of times, if you request this increase in your credit limit, depending on how bad off you are, it may not even get approved. It may not even get approved because you haven't shown responsibility in the manner of which you can handle the increase in the limit that you're requesting to be borrowed. So don't add more to your plate if you can't even carry what you have. Woo. Don't add more to your plate if you can't even carry what you currently have. So this is a hard one. This is a hurtful one, but I pray that one of these signs that I went over today will help you recognize that it's time for you to make a change in your finances. It's time for you to make a change in your financial decision making. It's time for you to make a change in your debt accumulation approach. Why? Because it's time to eliminate it. Why? Because it's time to eradicate it. Why? Because it's time to demolish it. And here on the Debt Demolisher TV, that's what we advocate for. We advocate for making debt freedom the new norm and wealth building the natural nature of habit since day one. Since day one. So I want to invite you to recognize the sign, accept the truth of the sign, whichever one stung for you. This is your wake-up call. This is your moment of truth. This is your moment of change. This is your moment to get free. This is your moment to release yourself from the bondage, first mentally. First mentally. Because once you get free here, you can get free on paper. And once you get free on paper, you can get free in your bank account. And once you get free in your bank account, you won't even need to borrow another day in your life. Remember, your financial prosperity awaits you, and so does your financial sanity. You already know what I'm going to tell you to do, and that's what? Get to work. All right. Bye.
The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia Melonē. The Debt Demolisher TV with Sophia